yet sleepest. Arise from the dead.
Read the Bible, you'll find out that God's not too happy with what's going on around us.
Redeem the time, because the days are evil.
The Bible has not changed.
Boldly proclaim the restoration and preservation of Christian values in America.
Satan has brainwashed a whole nation.
As goes the church, so goes the nation.
Nobody's convicted of anything anymore.
And now, here's Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
Morning,
BJ.
morning. Yay.
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Hope you're all doing well. Going to be talking about the headlines today, and they're very telling.
You got an icicle hanging off your hat.
Do I do.
I'm sorry I interrupted you.
That's okay. That's okay.
It's chilly.
Getting a cold anyway. So it's going to be interesting this morning. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on. And one of the reasons all this is going on is darkness. We're going to get into that. You know, Calvin Coolidge, ex-president, said, wherever despotism abounds, the sources of public information are the first to be brought under control. You're about to listen to 2 hours of opinion and entertainment supplied by Last Call Radio. We're not doctors, lawyers, politicians, professional journalists, nor do either of us hold a doctorate degree in anything. Not that that would make any difference, our opinion, of course. We only ask that you as an individual and or corporately not take our statements or those that we voice from others personal, nor do we recommend that you act on them as if they are facts, although they might very well be just that, facts, our opinion again. You're not required to listen to, act on, or repeat anything that you hear today, and that any information or opinion we present is meant for the good of the order and by no means intended to harm or threaten anyone. So there you go. We'll kick it off. You know, I want before we get into the headlines. About a year and a half ago, I got a call from a lady in Oklahoma.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
and she said that we have our Natural Family Month signs, and this was around the May time period, where one of our supporters had a sign out in their yard, and she was over visiting and didn't notice the sign when she pulled in, but when she started to pull out, she noticed the sign and said, "Whoa, hold on a second. What's this about?" And she absolutely, positively fell in love with the natural family movement. Her name was Margie. Last name was Alfonso, of Tulsa, Oklahoma. She's no longer with us. She was born in Detroit, Michigan, December 14th, to Margaret and Dennis Wittenberg and George Jack Russell Wittenberg. Margie attended Country Day School and completed her high school education at home with a tutor who helped her achieve the highest score on the entrance exam to that state up north, Michigan State University, at the time, where she received a BS in bacteriology and public health. After graduation, she began to work as a lab at a variety of children's hospitals, where she met her late husband, Dr. Sylvain Louis Alfonso, on her first day of work and on the last day of his pediatric residency. They remained married for 51 years. Margie was blessed by God. We had a lot of discussions, did Marge and I. She's I think she was in 89, 90 when she passed away, and very, very spry. Really, really was helping us in terms of what we were doing, but she was also writing a book at the same time, and wanted to finish the book. I don't know whether she got the book finished or not. I hope she did, but I talked to her, I think, in September, and she kept running into problems in writing it, and so hopefully that got written. She was blessed by God with a creative soul and demonstrated her giftedness through paintings and crafts, especially through creative writing and music composition. Her patriotic and children's songs were well publicized, having been performed at the Reagan Library, on Armed Forces Radio, at the Glendale USO in California, and on in-flight children's radio. One of her musical works, I Stand by the Country, which she co-wrote with her son George, was honored with George Washington Honor Medal of Freedom's Foundation of Valley Forge, and it was part of a traveling memorial on the Vietnam Wall. Margie was dedicated to God, family, and country in that order. God, family, and country in that order. Her commitment to patriotism went beyond the music. In her last decade of life, she herself ran for 3 different offices. I didn't bring the card down with me this morning, but on the front of the card was a picture of Margie and contact information, and on the back of the card was our natural family sign, which I use regular basis to folks that are running for office. Just such an encouragement. In 2018, she was asked to travel to Washington, D.C., educate members of Congress about the dangers of wireless technology and radiation. That's what she was writing a book about. Another cause which she's very passionate for, which she worked to inform public as well as others. At age 78, she became a successful senior model. She was cast in several projects. More important than any role or position she ever held, she would tell you, was her identity as a dedicated follower of the Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. She was never afraid to proclaim the gospel to anyone who would listen. And she would be especially remembered by several family members as someone who brought them to the message of Christ, and the fruit of her faithfulness in their lives will continue to feed others for years to come. I'm going to miss my conversations with Margie. I'm going to miss
Yes. Amen. We all will.
Yeah.
The Sunday calls.
Yeah, she's fried them up.
Yeah, she could talk.
Yep. But she had experience behind that.
She did.
Yeah, she was absolutely incredible, folks.
Did a lot of research on a lot of different topics.
And she got it when it came to the natural family. She got it immediately. Most folks don't. Most folks don't get that, but she got it immediately. She understood the power of it. There's so many laws we're trying to pass to protect parents, medical, et cetera, but we never define the parent. And that the definition is one biologically born man and woman in a lifelong committed monogamous relationship with their children, biological or adopted. That's the key, folks, to our survival as a civilization and as a nation. And in
whatever nation you're in, wherever you are on the globe.
True. In 2024, Russia celebrated the natural family for the entire year. Russia, the entire year. One biologically born man and woman. Yes, Russia, of all places. In the state of Ohio, there's a couple great representatives that presented a bill that we would celebrate the Natural Family Month from Mother's Day through Father's Day. A bill. And the testimony happened, the last testimony, positive and negative, happened almost 2 months ago. And it's just sitting there. Just sitting there. And the reason it's sitting there is because the LGBT community doesn't like it.
I wonder why.
Yeah. You know what's really interesting is that somebody in November early proposed celebrating a Veterans Month. Now, wouldn't it be interesting if the Veterans Bill goes through and the natural family doesn't? Which is more important, folks? I'm a veteran. Which is more important? Yes, we should celebrate veterans. I get that. But if you don't celebrate the natural family, the core, the foundation of all civilization, if you don't acknowledge what the best practice is, and we know what the best practice is.
Well, what are our armed services, excuse me, protecting?
Yeah, the family. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the inspiration for somebody to put all that they have on the line to go and fight.
Yeah.
Not that that's well, anyway, we can get into that one too. But yeah, that's what they're out there for.
Here's what you have, folks. Now let's just boil this down. You have two bills. If the LGBTQ community disagrees with one or the other or both, neither bill is going to get passed. Who's in control here, folks? Who is in control?
We were looking at an interesting website the other day. I don't have the statistics right at hand. I can bring it up, but it's an LGBT whatever Q website, and it's tracking how many queers we have in government. That's their own word. They use that.
Yeah.
And it's offering classes and services and all kinds of help to promote people to run for office in their local communities. Interesting.
Wait a minute. Churches do that, don't they? Don't churches do that, Mr. Anderson? What?
Depends what church. But there's an incredible number of people. There's 3 governors, several statesmen, senators, congressional. It amounts to 0.25% of our elected officials are of the gay community. I could bring that up, maybe.
Yeah. Do you have that video that I said we might do at 10:15?
I couldn't get it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting.
I didn't see that till this morning. Actually, I don't know why.
Well, it'd be good to kick off, but we'll kick it off anyway. You know, it's really difficult to tell who's in charge when it comes to the independent state of Washington, D.C. Maybe the LGBTQ for starters. We supposedly have 2 competing parties, but in essence, they're merely 2 different legs of the same bug. They're supposedly well-intended representatives that have been compromised by power brokers in various and sundry forms, God-hating puppeteers and greedy entities that are flourishing in the amoral and unjust nation that they've created, using our public servants for their own wants. We're going to look at today's headlines to give you evidence. These are symptoms, folks. When we read the headlines, these are symptoms.
Wait a minute. I might have that. Is that about the billionaires?
Yes, sir.
I got a minute version to show you. I got a 12-minute version also, but
yep. We'll probably start with that one and end with the 12-minute. So let's, if you can.
7 men, not governments, not armies, but 7 billionaires now control almost everything you see, hear, and are allowed to think. And every single one of them owns the news that you breathe and swallow every day. Elon Musk, worth $480 billion. Larry Ellison, $278 billion. Jeff Bezos, $250 billion. Bernard Arnault, $210 billion. Sergey Brin, $240 billion. Larry Page, $260 billion. And Mark Zuckerberg, worth $250 billion. They've got $15 trillion between them. And don't get me wrong, I'm a capitalist through and through. But these 7 guys have more wealth than half of humanity combined. But they're not just hoarding cash. They're gobbling up the entire media landscape. Every single one of them owns the news that you swallow every day. Every headline you skim, every post that hijacks your feed, every Netflix and doom scroll binge that numbs your brain. It's all funneled through their golden pipelines. And right now, as we speak, they're tightening the noose on free speech. They're turning journalism into their own personal propaganda machine. They're the gatekeepers of truth and the architects of illusion. They don't just own companies, guys.
They own reality.
Amen. Amen. Last Call Radio, where you can see the difference, folks. BJ Edwards and Mr. Anderson, plus our panels this morning. And I know that Craig is itching to get in here. just watching that video. I'm going to bring Craig in, but before I do, let me read one headline. A quote, first of all. We are fools, not by religious beliefs, however, but by what we are led to believe by those who control what information we receive. He who controls the information controls the world. Headline: Nation shocked as newsletter reports facts without yelling at them. In an unprecedented turn of events, Americans have stumbled upon The Flyover, a daily newsletter that, brace yourself, reports the news without a panel of angry pundits screaming at you about what it really means. I clicked expecting a lecture on why I'm a terrible person, said local man Jeff Henderson, but instead they just gave me the facts. I didn't know what to do with myself. So I formed my own opinion. It was terrifying. CNN, MSNBC, and the New York Times immediately condemned The Flyover for reckless neutrality and warned that allowing Americans to think independently could pose a grave threat to democracy, cable ratings, and Twitter blue checks. With over 1.6 million readers now on board, critics say The Flyover could destroy the sacred media tradition of spin, bias, and screaming designed to cause panic. In related news, the New York Times has launched a hotline for readers suffering withdrawal symptoms after accidentally consuming unfiltered facts. That's from the Babylon Bee, folks. But you know what? It makes a lot of sense. Craig, good morning, brother. How you doing?
You got me all fired up, BJ. Here we go, right? You know, we're about to start. I don't know where we want to start. Let me just say this much about all those people that we saw up there as far as the billionaires. They don't control diddly squat. They're the gatekeepers, right? Okay. The people who are controlling things are these old family, these Rothschilds, these Rockefellers. You don't become a billionaire just by chance. You're chosen. You're chosen to gatekeep. And you have a certain agenda you have to push forward. And I think a lot of that, sometimes that agenda that I was going to start talking about, you know, when I heard you did your whole thing about the natural family, because I don't think the natural family is under attack. I really don't. I think that all forms of existing biases are hyperinflated when there's times of economic distress. I think it still boils back down to money, right? If we had the economics, I think you'd see a lot more people settle down. I think you'd see one family member going to work while the other family member stays at home. I think you'd see more of that. I do think there's an issue when people push an agenda on children on either side, right? Take a step back. Let's learn about mathematics, English, and social studies over there and keep your agenda at home. I do understand there's a beef to be had there, Mr. BJ Edwards, but I don't sincerely believe that a lot of members of the LGBT community want to indoctrinate or push their views on anything. They just want to have acceptance, right? They just want to be accepted for who they are. And I think that we can just live by that one principle that we treat everybody with love and respect. But it all boils back down to money, right? You have these gatekeepers, these billionaires who have this agenda. You know, there's a theory out there from the conspiracy theorists that they say that transgenderism is just a step before transhumanism. And that's what we have with Donald Trump right now in the office. You saw Larry Ellison as one of those guys, right? Up there as the billionaires. He was up there day one with Sam Altman with a huge contract for Donald Trump pushing through AI. And we're talking about a guy who wants to push AI vaccines that go into your body, read your DNA, and then issue and create a vaccine specific for you. I mean, really scary stuff. So I don't want to get lost in the sauce over here. I think things are really a lot more cloudier than they appear to be. But there's no doubt out there that there's an agenda, and that agenda is first to keep us pitted at each other. And then they'll mop up everything after, right? It's the old Sun Tzu. Keep the people divided, divide and then conquer everything yourself. That's
Keep
my
your
2
eye,
cents.
keep
Good
your
morning,
eye on
Mr.
this
Anderson.
hand. Keep your eye on this hand. The other one's kind of busy doing other stuff. Never mind. Yeah. Don't look behind the curtain.
Don't do it.
The Rothschilds and Company, a couple things. Number one, don't they have to remove the family as an obstacle?
They have to put hurdles in play, and they can try to. I don't think they listen. I think you used the term before, natural family, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
It's very, very hard to remove something that's natural, right? You can do what you can. Look, there's no doubt, BJ. There's an agenda out there. I'm not going to deny that. However, it's really important not to get. I think for sides not to get mad at each other. It's very easy. You know, the reason why I like to come on the show is because I see a lot of big problems out there. The way religion is weaponized, right? And we see it's every single day, the way Christianity is weaponized. I think we have a lot of people out there. There's some really disgusting characters. A woman by the name of Valentina Gomez, I can think for one, the way she's talking about Muslims on an everyday basis. I still believe that we all are one, all together. We can love each other, find ways to live peacefully. But there is definitely an agenda out there. What I'm trying to say is that we need to be mad at those who are pushing the agenda, not those who are a part of the agenda. Those are the people we have to love and open up and try to understand each other on. That's my message. Don't I get an amen, Mr. Anderson?
Oh, well.
I don't get an amen.
I don't amen a lot of things, but I hear what you're saying, and I do agree. You know, it's again, it's back to the left and right thing. You know, if you take sides, you got a left or you got a right, but you got both sides have something to offer, and politically speaking, for sure. In religion, I could go on about Christianity. You see my sign. You know, Jesus is the way. I don't really want to argue with people about that. What I want to do is offer what I believe is true, and this is something that no one can really prove. People want proof, but you have to know something to be able to believe it. And well, that's true about anything, right? I mean, you believe the chair's going to be there when you sit down. Sometimes kids in a classroom might pull a joke on you and pull the chair out from under you.
Or your 4-year-old granddaughter. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't know where I'm going with this. I hear what you're saying about, yes, bottom line, we got to be able to live together peacefully, period. Muslim, Jew, Buddhist, I don't know. There's so many different titles out there for what people believe. And when you get to know God, that's a personal experience. That's an individual thing. You can't push that on people. You can offer it. You can offer ideas. Well, why do I believe this? Why do I believe that? And people can listen or not listen. That's their option. That's the key. Being able to listen and being able to share from the heart, not from forcing or pushing an idea. A lot of wars are started over religion, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Amen. Roger, did you want in? I see you're unmuted. I guess not.
Roger.
Yeah, we can't. Roger comes and goes. He's flying around as a single engine.
James Bond. He usually has something to say. he wants to kick in.
Yeah.
You know, BJ and Mr. Anderson, I think one thing that which I've seen over the course of my lifetime, I'm 52 years young. It's crazy because the first gay movement, I want to say gay, right, was more of a peace movement. It was about peace, love, and happiness. And now it's kind of transformed to something else. I don't think a lot of people really, especially within the gay community, are too fond of the fact that they've kind of combined together the gay movement with the trans movement, right? You know, I think there's still a lot of gay people out there that are not fond of that, and they speak about that. That's very different than my movement, you know? And like I said, the gay movement was about peace. It was peace and love, just love and be peaceful with everybody. Once again, and I growing up too as well, all the cross-dressing or any of that stuff was an adult thing, and they knew that. It was for themselves. They didn't push, you know, what do you call it? The story time with the cross-dressing story time. What do you call that? Whatever, when they read stories to what they're pushing in school right now, and they didn't really for back in the days. I remember my cousin being gay before he passed away. He had AIDS and he died. But it was an adult thing. It was who you wanted to sleep with, and that was okay, and that was kept separately in the adult ways. And a lot of people don't know that in Russia. You mentioned Russia. I think there are gay clubs in Moscow. They just don't have it in their parades for their children. They keep it separate. And, you know, I think that's a way to kind of acknowledge that. Be who you are, love who you are, but stay the heck away from the children. Don't bring it into the schools. You know what I'm saying? Once again, I don't even believe religion should be coming into the schools, right? You know, maybe if you have a situation where you can have a prayer time and you can do as you please and stuff, but nothing should be taught religiously on a level in schools to push a certain agenda. I believe that across the board, because I believe, once again, too, you talk about New York, all the different religions that Mr. Anderson talked about, all the different races and religions in living together in New York. I believe that's our strength. That's what America's about, you know? Our diversity is our strength. I believe that. Go ahead, Mr. JC. I know you're ready.
Diversity divides.
It
It divides.
Oops.
And you said something good there a little bit ago. Divide and conquer. That's right out of the Bible. Kudos to you. You did well. You used some scripture and you didn't even know it. Satan comes to divide and conquer. The other day, just reading, I seen a little on Newsmax. They're now telling little kids in 1st and 2nd grade that Santa Claus was black and he had a white husband. Now, come on. We already lied to them about Santa Claus and Easter Bunny when they were little, told them lies. So when they get older, then they say, oh, Mom and Dad, you lied to me. There wasn't no Santa Claus. But now they're telling them Santa Claus is black and he's gay and got a white husband. That was right in North Carolina. You got a politician down there. He's fired up. Then the same story, another story that day, they arrested a pastor for going to drag queen story hour. A pastor standing against this evil that little kids are getting it shoved down their throat. And they took him to jail, cuffed him, took him out of there. And his little 11-year-old boy was crying because they arrested daddy for standing against something that's evil. Here's my question to you. Have you ever been to a really, really, really large gay parade? I'm talking 500,000 or 1 million. You ever been to one?
Not that big, but I went to one that was a couple thousand, I should say.
Yeah, there's small ones everywhere. I've been to small ones. Yeah. We've been to Columbus, 500,000. And over the years of 14 years going down there, we always went down there to share love with them. I remember Pastor Bill, first few years we started, he was standing there. They'd come around with all their vileness, their hatred, their garbage. And we're just down there with our Bibles trying to share Jesus with them. If they want to listen, we weren't forcing them. But, you know, he explained to him, he said this couple queers come up to him, start screaming about how he's so hateful. And he said, listen, he pointed up to the building. He said, if that building was on fire and you're up there on the 3rd floor and that building's on fire, he said, I am coming in there to rescue you and save your life. I will come in and save you and pull you out of that burning building so you don't die and perish. He said, that's what I'm here today for, to help save your life. We have been to them. They are, little kids, 22 churches, gay churches, in a parade with 500,000 people down there. There's only 13,000 participants in a gay parade. 13,000. The rest of them are all people with strollers and little kids and letting them view this stuff. And the hatred is so deep, so deep. It's just unbelievable, the hatred that they have. This, and we've always said for years, we did gay parades for 14 years. We haven't been anymore because they're just too big now. You can't get nothing accomplished going down there. They're blowing whistles right in your eardrum, banging drums in your eardrum, just craziness. I was actually standing there one day and we're watching these churches, 22 churches, come across the bridge. And all these churches have little kids in there, 6 years old, 8-year-old, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds. And the little kids are marching, carrying a rainbow banner with the Methodist Church, Presbyterian Church, the Baptist Church. They're the apostate churches. They're not real churches. They're false. And the little kids, so our message was that day, all I was doing with Bullhorn is the message was these little kids, them people you're marching with are lying to you. And you'll see the looks on the kids' faces. They were concerned. We're just trying to tell them somebody's lying to you, little kids. But to drag them in on that is pathetic. I'm standing there, and they come with their rainbow flags on a stick, and they're waving them. And this one homosexual got right there to me. What'd he do? Bam! Cracked me right in the forehead with his flag. 6, 7, 8 cops standing around. I said, officer, arrest him for assault. They wouldn't touch him. They are free to do whatever they want. I watched an 80-year-old man pull up his silky red shorts and expose himself to a bunch of little kids and everybody around it. They're vulgar, very vulgar. And we always said for years, we said way back 20 years ago, 25 years ago, sure, they're in the closet right now. They're going to come out. And then it's going to get wild. Hey, if you want to be gay, do it in your own bedroom. But don't come to the public square. Don't come to our schools. Don't come in here shoving this nonsense down our throats. I was also involved with FCAs for years, Fellowship of Christian
Keep
Athletes.
it to yourself, like Craig said,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we knew that was coming, where it's going to be marching in the streets, in your schools, in your workplace, in the city hall, everywhere. Now you got them running for a public office here in the little town of Mount Vernon, 17,000 people. Over the past 10 years, we've had 6 or 8 homosexuals running for office in there. And when you go and speak, I was in one time. You ought to have seen the vileness in city council meeting of the 2 homosexuals that come at me, screaming in the doorway. They had to stop the meeting because these people were belligerent. It's just nuts what they're doing. We got evil flourishing everywhere. I mean, now look at Minnesota. Look at Michigan.
Oh, there's all kinds of,
When you say Michigan and Minnesota, are you talking about Muslim situation?
Yeah, packing in 40,000 in one city and 70,000 in another. It's about control. It is coming. They want to dominate. It is coming. We got.
I'm going to let James talk. I think James wants to talk before because there's a lot of pushback I have over there because diversity divides is just and I will say this much, JC. I believe that a lot of gay people have their own brain, their own thoughts. They don't share the whole same values together. The whole tactics.
There's probably a few, but most of them are being lied to.
Yeah. Go ahead, James. Fire away.
DJ, can you hear me?
No.
Barely.
No.
Can you hear me now?
No.
You need to go get a headset on or earpieces or something.
Hold on just a second. Can you hear me now?
Barely.
Oh, there he goes.
Now?
There you go. Craig, I do want you to respond, but there's something that I want to ask you.
I'm going now. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
James Bond.
There is no strength in diversity in this country. That is a lie. They are not coming in to adopt our culture. They're coming in with their culture and not changing. It used to be a person would come in and they would basically filter into the American lifestyle.
Assimilate.
That's not what's going on now. They're bringing in entire cultures, taking over cities and staying in their culture. So this idea that diversity is our strength is a lie. It is not true.
Yeah. You guys are drinking the Kool-Aid.
We're
you
here.
Guys
Thank you so much. We've got babies sleeping, but thank you. But thank you very much.
All right, James.
Let me show this video real quick. I got a video to maybe kind of respond to it.
And then take a break, and then we'll get back to Craig. Go ahead. Show the video, take a break, and then we'll get back with Craig.
This is Enoch Burke, the teacher who has refused to deny his Christian belief and bow to transgender ideology. We're here at the Four Courts again in Dublin, where Enoch's case was again before Mr. Justice Brian Cregan, and he had a number of matters to deal with today in relation to the case. But at the beginning he said, if any member of the Burke family so much as speaks, they will be removed by Gardaí. So this is the situation we are in. Lies are being told from the bench. Enoch Burke, his name's blackened, the Constitution set at naught, the law disregarded, and if a person so much as speaks a word, they will be removed by a battalion of Gardaí.
Judge Cregan today has given us a new version of the Constitution regarding religious freedom. He said if Enoch Burke practiced his Christian belief outside the gate, this would never have happened. He said it 3 times today. So he is telling us you can have your religious belief outside the gate. But you know, that's not what the Constitution tells us. It tells us that we have a constitutional right to the free practice and profession of our religious belief in our school, in our job, in our shop, wherever we are, not according to this perverted idea and judgment of Judge Cregan.
We also had today that the judge said that he's not going to let Enoch out for Christmas or Easter.
Now this is really a life sentence for my son by this judge. A life sentence for Enoch Burke. And let us remember this, Enoch Burke did not begin with Enoch Burke. This dispute began when the principal of the school demanded that he call a child by a new name and use the they pronoun. It did not begin with Enoch Burke. He was commanded to deny his Christian belief, to give up his conscience and agree with transgenderism. And today he's getting a life sentence because the courts have decided to agree with the school and lock him up in prison.
Enoch Burke there, he's just been packed back into...
Last Call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
And we are back. We're having what I would call a stimulating discussion. And our guest, Craig, would you describe yourself as a conservative agnostic or atheist?
No, I'm definitely agnostic. I definitely believe in a higher power. So, you know, that is for sure. You know what I'm saying? I look at Jesus as almost a Buddhist. You know what I'm saying? I'm down with Jesus because of, my time in Catholic school. I had Jesuit nuns who taught me that it's just awesome to give, so I kind of have, I definitely believe that, it's important to act Christ-like, but I also said this, if Jesus was around today, Jesus would be a communist, right? He would feed the poor, you know what I'm saying? He would make sure that those who were the most vulnerable and out to society were taken care of. But that's beside the point. I want to kind of stick on it does tie into what we're talking about, because I think a lot of people here on this panel are drinking the Kool-Aid, right? They want to come in, they want to bring their culture and blah, 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 and diversity divides. I strongly disapprove of that belief. What are we supposed to do? We're just supposed to stay within our own groups all the time. We're never supposed to meet other people of other religions and cultures and whatnot. And also, too, I've said this before, my number one beef is what, BJ? It's empire. All evil stems from empire and what the United States is doing. 1,000 bases across the globe, bombing countries left and right, creating refugees, forcing them to flee their countries. And a lot of times they're going to come here, right? So I think that we've pushed at the boundaries as far as making so many people come here to begin with. But I do believe that diversity is our strength. You know what I'm saying? And I believe also, too, that people are getting, especially a lot of people on the panel here, they're getting a little bit over alarmed by what the media is pushing. The media is pushing a small amount of people, with different beliefs who want to divide us and acting as if that is the whole and that is the majority. That's just simply not the truth. You know, these are small little examples of people who are being pushed. Most of the people who come into this country, you know, they love the fact that they have an opportunity to be in what a lot of people believe is the greatest country out there. I don't know. We're kind of headed in the wrong direction. I'm ready to get going and get on out of here from everything I see in the United States. But the majority of people that come here, they're loving workers. You know, you talk about the majority of people that come from the southern border, they're Christians, right? They believe in family, but they believe in those values you talk about. Yet they're forced to come in this country because we're in that country. And I don't believe they're pushing, if they have the right, and that's in our Constitution, right? You can worship who you want. You can love who you want. You can do as you want. I don't believe they're trying to push their ways upon us. I believe that the majority of them are acclimating to this country. They love this country. They love the fact they have the opportunity, and they're making the most of it. You know, statistically, that immigrants, whether they be undocumented, illegal, or legal, commit crime and are booked at a far lower rate than American citizens. Did you guys know that? Because that's the truth.
I don't know. It's hard to gather statistics, and I hear so many different things. That video I showed, well, it's a British situation, but here's a guy that doesn't want to lie. Let's not even put a religious value on it. You know, who wants to lie? Are you a liar? I mean, and can you know? Welcome to 1984. 2 and 2 is 5. You know, you have to say what we want you to say, or we're going to punish you. Here's a guy that doesn't want to call somebody by the wrong pronouns or the wrong name, and he's put in prison for life. That is not diversity. That is a stranglehold on somebody who has a different belief, and they're finding a way to silence this guy, or at least attempting to. And that's the problem that we're talking about more than anything else.
Yeah. But that's not the norm, Mr. Anderson. That's one little situation that they're taking and putting in the press before your eyes to make you believe is the norm. It's just not.
Craig, I mentioned early on in the program that they're trying to get a natural family act passed in the state of Ohio. That can't.
They're not trying to get a natural family act. They're trying to get a day of celebration, right?
It's a month-long celebration, and it is.
Can I be honest with you, BJ? Who cares? I can't. Who cares? When you're trying to get a day of celebration, that's just a virtue signal. You know what I'm saying?
That being aside,
yeah.
The problem, the reason it's not being passed is because the LGBT community doesn't want it passed. This passive group that you're talking about that don't want to dominate, that just want to get along. You've heard the story. We just want to be accepted. Bull. They want dominance, and they are showing it.
There are leaders within the LGBT community who have different thoughts than those who are people who are just gay, right? There are people who are not involved politically. The majority of people who are gay are not involved in any politics whatsoever. They don't think that way. And once again, our rulers have an agenda, and those up top who take control of these groups, every single group gets co-opted out there, no matter what. And once again, those people who will control these groups, they have an agenda to push. What I'm trying to say is, BJ, is that most gay people don't think that way.
I have an associate, and she had a best friend, for 15 years. Best friends every day, children, etc. I mean, just sharing everything. Best of friends. They're separated now. You know why they're separated? Because the one girl has a brother who's gay. He's not a leader. He's not a leader in the party. But because this individual didn't agree with the other individual on gay rights, she severed that relationship. The one with the brother that's gay. That has nothing to do with leadership.
Yeah.
That is a belief that practicing. One of the things we need to hopefully get clear is what's right and what's wrong. Is there a right and is there a wrong, Craig? Do you agree that there's a right and a wrong, or just there's variations? There's really no right. There's really no wrong.
Well, I don't think everything is black and white. I think there's a lot of gray areas there, BJ. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to say that with the situation that you're talking about, it's just not the norm. there's just plenty of gay people out there that, you know, that are part of families, whatnot, and they go along with their gay life and they don't affect the other people around them. And, you know, look, my cousin just had a gay wedding, and it was a, you know, I know a lot of people. I know Betty's probably going to be mad at me in the bleachers over there and yell at me. I love you, Betty. But yeah, I do. But you know what I'm saying? It was a beautiful ceremony. It was, and I was happy for them, but they're not trying to push anything on anybody else. They just want to live together happily and be accepted for who they are. So
what's happening in America doesn't agree with your statement.
I'm still gonna say that it's the minority. Once again, what we're talking about here, and you know me, BJ, I've told you this before. I said when it comes to the culture war stuff, it's not that I put it on the back burner. There's just other much bigger problems to deal with whatsoever. When we go to the extremes and we allow certain things to happen, what's driving me crazy right now is seeing the majority of a Christian nation being okay with our president and his administration is doing what's called extrajudicial murders in the high seas. And nobody's speaking out against it. Nobody's saying it's okay. They're actually going along with it. These are the things that I think should be put on the top of the priority list that we need to correct. Empire, right?
Since you went to that topic, let me introduce some thoughts with this other video. I don't know, and maybe we can change hats a little bit. Yeah, I can talk about this guy and the things that he's talking about, but I'll just play the video and we can play off of it, I hope. It's kind of what you brought up, Craig, about the murdering of people in the boats.
Where the rest of us live, Donald Trump is actually pardoning the Honduran ex-president, Juan Orlando Hernandez, who was convicted in the United States last year of, wait for it, drug trafficking, and sentenced to 45 years in prison. The prosecutor in that case said that Hernandez had paved a cocaine superhighway to the United States. But Donald Trump posted on his social media site on Friday, "I will be granting a full and complete pardon to former President Juan Orlando Hernandez, who has been, according to many people that I greatly respect, treated very harshly and unfairly." And so I have to ask, what, was his boat blown out of the water with no due process? Was he sent to a punishment camp in El Salvador with no due process? No. He was afforded a fair trial in the United States of America, and he was convicted by a jury. And so Trump is pardoning a convicted drug trafficker who's apparently useful to him in some way, while simply asserting from 2,000 miles away that some men in boats are narco-terrorists and that they pose a dangerous enough threat to America that they must be blown out of the water. And if he gains politically because millions of his supporters get their jollies by watching all this happen on their TVs, then so much the better. The hypocrisy of this is just obvious, and it's staggering. And the fact that Trump supporters go along with the obvious farce, I just have to say that's a serious indictment on their character. And in the end, that's what this whole campaign is about. It's meant to coerce Americans, to get us used to accepting extrajudicial killings in the name of a righteous cause. And it's beyond disappointing to see millions of people who claim to be Christians falling for these soul-destroying tactics, because the target of these attacks is not really drug traffickers. Otherwise, Trump wouldn't be pardoning a major drug trafficker. And the target of these attacks is not ultimately the human beings in the boats. The target of these attacks is the conscience of the American.
Wow, I love this group. Mr. Anderson, you don't know how much I love you for playing that there, because that guy shared so many of my opinions. And so the audience knows I was supposed to go to Honduras this last weekend to observe this election. However, doing the right thing, taking care of the family, Mr. Edwards, and taking care of mom, right? So she was having to go for surgery for her arm. They canceled it, thank God, because, you know, she's been freaking out about it. But I had to stay put and take care of my mother. I have no problems with that. However, I was in Honduras in 2021 for 10 days. talking to different parties, different people, going about the country. I flew into the northern part of the country, went down to the Capitol, and it witnessed, this election as an election observer, and how many people wanted Juan Orlando Hernandez, and his party gone. And Donald Trump had supported this party in 2017. The election was so bad. And let's not forget, once again, we talk about two legs of the same bug, two wings of the same bird. It was Madam Secretary Hillary Clinton with the Barack Obama presidency who removed Manuel Zelaya, who was the duly democratically elected leader of Honduras, who joined ALBA, which is a military alliance with Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. They had him removed in his pajamas in the middle of the night, right? So this is not a Republican or a Democratic thing. Both parties participate in this behavior, and it's disgusting. Just like the extrajudicial murders out there in the ocean. Well, Obama thought it was okay to bomb American citizens at weddings. In fact, he killed a 16-year-old kid. Every single president has been doing this, especially since George W. Bush had his illegal war in Iraq, and along with Richard Cheney, opened up the door to labeling people as the terrorist word, right? I always say the terrorist word is the Republican word for hate speech. The Democrats use hate speech or hate to go and take away people's civil liberties or do unjust extrajudicial murders, and the Republicans use the term terrorist to do that. But we know that this is all a farce. Juan Orlando Hernandez, by the way, it was 400 tons of cocaine that he got caught with, that he had a due process and a jury. 400 tons of cocaine he was bringing into the United States. Why did Donald Trump just pardon him? He's going around saying narco-terrorist, narco-terrorist. And Mr. Anderson, the thing that was really telling about that speech that guy made, and I have a hard time with this, right? Especially since I joined this group and have been on this show with you guys, saying, well, that's not Christian-like to go ahead and stand behind that and push that, right? You know what I'm saying? That's not Christ-like. I have a hard time saying that, but we do see a lot of that where people are going along with this. They're not condemning it. They're actually giving the thumbs up for it. But these are the major problems that we have right now in this country. It's empire once again, because that same empire that's blowing up those boats, Mr. Edwards, are the same empire that's standing behind what's going on with the programming of our children nowadays, which they're trying to do. It's the same group. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you hear people saying, we got to stop this. We got to stand behind the natural family. They maybe cast a whole blanket on the whole LGBT community, which is where I kind of lose a little bit of, wait a second, hold on, right? But now they're okay with some of these extrajudicial murders because they're being told that they're stopping narco-terrorists from coming into this country. By the way, 0% of the fentanyl comes from Venezuela into this country. 0%. Rand Paul talked about this. And those boats would need to refuel 20 to 25 times to even reach the shores of America. So unless there's an Exxon gas station out in the middle of the ocean, this is ridiculous. This is extrajudicial murder on a high level, and it's disgusting. Did you see the last one, Mr. Edwards? Mr. Anderson, it was terrible. They bombed the boat. There was 11 people on the boat. 9 of the people were killed almost instantly. 2 of the other people were hanging off on the rubble left of the boat. And they were ordered to kill them on top of it. Once again, not the fact that it's an illegal bombing and illegal killing to begin with, but then you're bombing and killing survivors when military-wise, you have the law states clearly that you are, if a guy gets shot out of a plane and he's coming down in a parachute, whatnot, you can't fire at him. When they surrender, you have to go out there and take them as prisoners. They ordered the killing of these 2 survivors that were hanging off the boat. This is disgusting on all levels, and it's really, really sad.
I want to make a comment about, I did not see the video that you're talking about, and maybe you can send that to me. But in real estate, it's location, location, location. Let's just say that this boat which has drugs in it, okay, it has illegal drugs in it.
You don't know that. You don't know that. That's why we have arresting, confiscating, due process. You don't know that. 35% of the boats that the Coast Guards pull over with information they are given, 35%, 1 out of 3 for selective boats that they've been given information on don't have drugs. They don't know until you board, look, confiscate, arrest.
So they're out fishing? They were out fishing?
A lot of those boats, they go back and forth to those little islands.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, they're using does anybody have do you guys have a guess, Mr. Anderson, Mr. Edwards, about why they're bombing these boats and why they're doing this? Do you understand why they're doing it? Do you guys have a thought process on that?
I think it's malicious. I don't have an answer for it. I think I agree that due process is due. You know, if they suspect, even with the best of information they think they have, why don't we? I'm sure we have the power to bring a bigger boat up alongside of that and inspect it. And if we have the authority, arrest and try.
I don't know whether you can do that, Mr. Anderson, because traveling by sea is much different than traveling on land. It takes a little bit, and we don't have boats. You know, we don't have highway of boats out there, and they're not going to be out there that long. I want to finish my comment with Craig. Let's just say that they do have drugs on it, and they're sitting outside of the USA and about to come in, let's say, to our waters, or they're still in their waters headed our way, and they get stopped, or they try to stop them, and they keep coming, and they say, stop, or we're going to shoot. What do, Craig? Do you let them come in?
No, well, there's a whole procedure for that, and they showed this. You can watch a lot of Coast Guard votes. A lot of times when they try to board vessels and the vessel doesn't want to stop, they fire a bullet across the board. They put a big bullet inside the engine. They do this all the time. They don't have to kill anybody. The Coast Guard doesn't kill anybody doing this. They've got this down to perfection. They can do that, right?
But they're drug dealers. They're not going to stop because they know what's going to happen.
No, they stop. The Coast Guard stops them all the time. The drug dealers themselves are sending mules, right? They're sending low-level guys over there, and like I said, they do this all the time. They board vessels, they stop vessels all the time without killing anybody. You know, the Coast Guard is a little bit different because it's not so much like a full-blown foregone military. You know, they are part of the military, but they are also more part of our law enforcement of our waters and our seas, right?
Yeah.
But once again, due process is due. You have to go and board the vessel, check it out, whatnot. And remember, these are off the coast of the Caribbean. Here's the thing, Mr. Edwards. This is the sad part because you're hitting on something that's very, very important. We're not having a national discussion on why so many people are hooked on fentanyl to begin with. Why there is a demand for fentanyl in this country to begin with, right? That is big pharma gone loose. I've said it before. In 2013, at the height of opioid prescriptions written, there were 220 million prescriptions written by doctors to patients. 220 million. Think about that. Let that set in. We have 330 million people. So that's more than 2/3 of our population were written a prescription for opioids in this country. They got people addicted. They got people hooked. And now you want to look at the people who you're kind of claiming to bring in the drugs. Mr. Edwards, I think you know this very well. What country has the largest oil reserves in the world?
Go
ahead. You better believe it, sir. And the ruling class, they want it back. They lost it with Chavez. They want it back. That's the largest oil reserves in the world. A lot of gold there. This isn't about drugs. And he played it on the video. If this was a drug... Excuse me. If this was about drugs, why would Donald Trump pardon the guy who got caught with 400 million tons of cocaine? 400 tons of cocaine, not million, 400 tons of cocaine coming into the United States. He got caught with it. Why would he pardon him then to begin with? This is not about drugs. This is about empire. Once again, they want Venezuela's oil. They had it before. They want it back. And that's why they're doing what they're doing over there.
We're going to take a break. I don't know if we have a 2-minute warning or not. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion. I'm going to bring David Arthur in, and we're going to continue the discussion about the LGBTQ community because we kind of gotten away from that, and I want to pursue that, and I'm going to start it off with a question. But let's take a break. Craig, I love you. I appreciate you, man.
Love you guys too. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, love it. Love it.
Opening the box for the very first time. See what this thing has in it. Okay. Now, I'm not kidding you. I don't know if you guys know this, but Greg Reese, way back in the day, did a Reese report on these tests. And he found out that there is a very deadly chemical in these stupid things called sodium azide. Sodium azide. AZIDE. I went to the MSDS.gov to check, the safety data sheets, medical safety data sheet, material safety data sheet, MSDS. Dude, you're not even supposed to touch this stuff. Sodium azide. It's highly deadly. Highly. And they put it in these stupid tests. Come on, man. Sound like Biden right there. So I will be wearing rubber gloves on this. Doggone it, they sent me 2 left hands again. Look at that. That's so, jeez. Look at that. 2 left hands.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
And we're back discussing headlines and what's going on in America today. One of the things, I'll wait for Craig to get back in, but one of the things that we need to know, or we need to ask, is there a right and is there a wrong? And I kind of started that with Craig earlier, and we can get back into that when we get back. I want to bring David in here before we get into the discussion. David, how you doing, and how's your mom doing?
I am well. My mom is making the most of this, so she's praising God through it all. The MRI actually showed that she has something called a burst fracture. That's where one of the vertebrae in her back actually burst into several pieces. Yeah, and so the threat is such a severe incident, because the threat is that the bone fragments will move and damage the spinal cord. So we're just staying on top of it, and our healthcare system sucks. And we wait now until I think we got 11 more days.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you're in our prayers, brother. You're in our prayers.
Thank you.
We'll bring Craig back on. You hang in there. Craig, you mentioned something early on that I didn't get a chance. We got deep into the woods on other subjects, and you mentioned something about public schools. Mm-hmm. And what's the purpose of a public school?
Well, I think that's lost, right? I think that the biggest
what is it supposed to be? What is the purpose of a public school? What's it supposed to be?
I didn't do my homework. I wasn't prepared for this question, and my mind's spinning right now.
If you're going to establish a public school, what do you want to be teaching? You personally, what do you think should be taught?
Honestly, I think we should be teaching kids to think for themselves somehow. Like, that's the main thing, that we if we're preparing children for life, we need to teach them how to think for themselves. You know?
So when it comes to their relationship with their parents, they should think for themselves.
Well, they should think for themselves, but they should do what they're taught. I mean, they're still learning whatnot, but that's the whole. I think I think that's the whole process, is that the parents should also be preparing their children to think quickly on their feet and think for themselves from what they're going to face in their lifestyle. So,
yeah, and first of all, I'm not a fan of public schools.
Yeah.
First of all, even if they were perfect, you're taking the child out of. It's the parents' job to educate their child, and there are basics like math and science and history, etc. Okay, those are basics, and that is fine. But what you find in public schools today, Craig, I know you talk about diversity, but do you think that you should be killing somebody?
No.
Do you think murder is okay? So
no.
Shouldn't we be diverse about that? Shouldn't we allow it? I mean, in some cases, isn't it okay? And then if murder becomes rampant, or we start codifying into the law and we got problems. The same thing goes with stealing. There's other basics, definites. They're definites. They're natural laws, if you will. That if this happens, then that's going to happen. And what you have in government-run schools, when you talk about diversity, to me, there's the truth is light. Diversity clouds it. It keeps children from seeing what is actually there. And from what I know, and I don't know what your relationship is with public schools, but I attended government-run schools, I'll call them indoctrination centers, for 10 years. 10 years. And what I learned is that they teach that life has no meaning. They're not teaching math. They're not teaching science. They're not teaching history. They're teaching that life has no meaning. Evolution is fact. Man, not God, is the measure of all things. The schools are teaching this. They're teaching multiculturalism and diversity. They're teaching the state is your daddy, and they're teaching children that they're a victim. And children go through this for 12 years. And then we have children shooting other children or shooting presidents. Whether they're being manipulated or not, they're put in their position where that happens. Unions run the schools. And if you take a look at quote unquote diversity, you're going to see a consistency here, whether it's a small town in Ohio or a large town in New York, it's going to be the same. Public schools, to me, are indoctrination centers. They use the term diversity to promote non-diversity. Actually, for every action, there's a reaction. If you take Christianity out, you're going to create a vacuum, and something else is going to come in.
That's the weaponization of it, though. That's the weaponization of the ruling class and the oligarchs and the technocrats using the word diversity. They weaponize it to their own benefit to push their agenda. That's not the diversity I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about the diversity about the guy from that neck of the woods who might have a different religion. Still, at the end of the day, boils down to he probably worships the same God that you worship. That, you know, I'm saying that, and this is why I'm so into food, right, and culture and food, because I believe it brings us together. We have to be careful about the weaponization of diversity versus what actual diversity means. We're one people on one planet. We can live together and play nicely in a sandbox. I believe that, without pushing someone's beliefs upon somebody else, but accepting who they are. That's what I'm saying. You're talking about the weaponization of diversity in which the ruling class use to push a certain agenda. I'm against that.
Okay. Well, we've been talking about LGBTQ. David Arthur is with us, and David has a history with the LGBT community and the transgender community and probably schools, and talks a lot about it. So, David, what are your thoughts in terms of public schools and LGBTQ and diversity and all that?
First of all, the public government schools are unsalvageable. They need to be done away with completely. That's not even how we were supposed to be. We were supposed to be training up our children in the way in which they should go. That belongs in the homes. And if parents can't homeschool, then they need to find somebody who can, because only an unparent would put their child on that little yellow school bus to hell. Only an unparent would do that. And like I said, and this isn't just new. This isn't something that just happened in the last 5 years, 10 years. This is something that's been going on. It was the goal of the creation of the government schools was to take the children out of the home and find ways to implant thoughts, implant theories, and direct the children. That is the way that they took the children away from the family. That's how they did it with the public government schools. That was the beginning of it all. Diversity, equity, inclusivity. This was created many years ago just to do what it is doing now. It was created to be weaponized. It was created to weaponize different classes and different groups of people. Now there are a whole lot, and I just spoke at to the high school last week, or maybe the week before in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
But the things that these kids believe, They believe that gender is a spectrum, that gender is a social construct. They believe all of these new ideologies that have been pretty much they've been force-fed these ideologies so they can regurgitate the same things. When they run out of everything they've been force-fed, and you keep asking them questions, they have no answers. Then they just get mad, they scream, they yell, "Shut up, I hate you. You're a misogynist, you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're a this, you're a that." I mean, that just happens no matter what side of the spectrum you're on.
Do you know how they pull this off, though, too, as well? Once again, when you talk about the state wants to be the daddy, right, Mr. Edwards? And
yes, sir.
By the way, I'm so sorry. Is it David? Nice to meet
Yes.
you. Pleasure to talk with you too, as well. When you talk about the state wants to be your daddy and they want to control what's going on, it boils back down to economics. Remember, we used to have a country where the guy who used to sweep the factory, who used to sweep the floor in the factory, was able to buy a house, go away on vacation 2 times a year, right? You know what I'm saying? Send all his kids to college and then die peacefully with a few bucks in the bank. Now the guy who sweeps the factory usually lives on the streets. Now that you can't have one parent be at home all the time, now both parents got to go to work so much just to pay the bills, to put a roof over their head and try to keep food on the table. It boils down to economics. You put people in distressful situations, then therefore you can move them, right? A stressed society, a drugged up society is an easy society to control, you know? So once again, I'm saying this all boils down to economics. And I would tell people who are whatever you want to call pro-LGBTQ and whatnot and everything, I'd say, well, listen, a gay couple needs money to survive, right? You know what I'm saying? If you don't have the economics, then you can just go ahead and twist anything and move anything in any way. That's what the ruling class is doing right now. They got people stressed out and trying to pay their bills. They don't have time to raise their children because they have to work 40 hours a week to both parents, 50 hours a week just to put food on the table. That's how they get you. It boils back down to economics.
Wow. And he's not far off. Honestly, he's not far off. This is something that I've seen over the last 15 years. You know, I've only been rescued for 15 years. And 2 of those years I stumbled away. But what we've gotten so far away from is the truth. Not the facts, but the truth. Because facts don't necessarily mean truth. There's one truth. There's a whole lot of facts. If I come into a room that's 9 by 9 by 9, and I'm 3 foot tall and you're 6 foot tall, I say this is a huge room. That's a fact. You say this is a small room. That's a fact. The only truth is the room is 9 by 9 by 9. That's it. And that's where we've gotten so far off track. So many of these people of the people that I'm blessed to cross paths with and to minister to and to just sit and talk to and to establish relationships with have no idea what the truth is. They believe in sexual orientation. They believe that once they accept something, that they draw a line in the sand. There's nothing for them beyond that line. So, and when I say that, I think sexual orientation is the biggest hoax or the biggest fallacy of them all, because we are designed in one orientation. Our design, man calls it heterosexual. That's the design. That was the only intention and the only creation from the very beginning of time. Heterosexual, that's it. Just because we choose to deviate from that doesn't mean it's the truth. And that's one of the largest hoaxes, one of the biggest lies that we've accepted, is that there is a sexual orientation. And until we start getting on the right track and getting back to just the truth, like, no, sorry, you're born a male. You're not assigned that at birth. That is what you were born and created to be. There is no such thing as having 2 sexes. Intersex used to be called hermaphrodite. Never in history has a hermaphrodite been born with two complete, total functioning sex organs. Their functioning sex organ has always correlated with their DNA and the over 6,500 chromosome markers in their body that make them distinctly male or distinctly female. So what we have to start doing is telling children, like, no, that's not normal, and that's not okay. There is no such thing as having two daddies. A child can only have one father and one mother. They can be unparents, but that's besides the fact. But we have to get back to the truth and not just facts, because facts could cover there's a whole lot of facts, and there's no such thing as subjective or objective truth. Truth is truth. There's one truth. And that truth is what we have to start instilling in people, even in our daily conversations with our family, our friends, our neighbors, those that we come into contact with in the grocery store, wherever we are. We have to pour out the truth. And I'm not saying go minister to people and go preach to people and grab your Bible and your bullhorn, because I'm not saying that, because that'll get you nowhere. Because when I was a transgender, drug addict, alcoholic, prostitute on the street corner, the one thing I could never understand was why these people are reading these words to me from this book. They're reading me these words that I couldn't possibly comprehend. But at the same time, they're telling me God loves you and he has a plan for your life. Now smile. And that was the only thing I ever heard the entire time I lived in darkness. And so that's why we have to get so far away from traditional evangelizing and all of the things that people think that we should be saying and the things that we think we should be doing. And we said we'd better start establishing relationships, intimate relationships with people who don't think like us, dress like us, act like us, believe what we believe. It just doesn't matter. If we don't have it in us to establish a relationship with somebody who believes themselves to be the opposite sex, eight-spirited, a lizard, whatever, or just somebody who worships a different God than us, we can establish relationships with other people.
David, we're going
Amen.
to take a break. I'll take care of it, Mr. Anderson. Come back, Craig, and respond.
Faith, discussion, and so much more. Last Call with BJ Edwards.
So many places I want to go with this. When I hear diversity, I think compromise, and that's a problem. I was listening to David, and if you're gonna establish a relationship with somebody, what are you going to sacrifice? What are you going to compromise? And if
you better not sacrifice anything, and you better not compromise anything. You always have to stand firm. You always have to stand firm. I mean, the first thing I say to people when I do establish a relationship with them, and I think like, okay, I'm going to invest in this person. I'm going to invest some time and some energy in this person, because people aren't projects. And that seems to be the problem that the church and the world both have, is that they think that people are projects and they want to work on people, but they're not projects. So the first thing I always say is, I don't want to be your friend. And they look at me like, what? I say, I want to be your brother. My goal is to become your brother. I'm going to befriend you in hopes of becoming your brother. And that's that. And then we see where we go from there. I mean, when I said on, I guess it was a couple weeks ago, and I was talking on somebody's podcast, and I mentioned that I had a few friends who identify as homosexual. I said, we go to lunch and we don't talk about homosexuality. I was like, that's not my focus with them. My focus is just being the example for them in word, in deed, and in action, and just being the example, introducing them to the Christ without having to tell them all about the Christ or what the Christ has done for them, but just introducing them to him through my words, deeds, and actions. That's the goal. And that should be all of our goal, because if it was, then we wouldn't be allowing these organizations and the government especially to divide us and tear us apart and inject hate in us for other people because of the color of their skin or because of their religion. I mean, no, I don't think that Islam belongs here at all, because I know many of them. I know many who have left that religion, and I also know what their goal is as a whole, as an organization. But does that mean I'm not going to befriend them? I absolutely would. If they were my neighbor, I would be befriending them. Why? To get through to them, to be the example to them, because I have dealt with too many young men that have come out of that cult, and the things that they've suffered at the hands of those people is mind-blowing.
I'm gonna let Craig get in here. I know he's itching.
I'm not. I'm enjoying Dave speak over here. You know what I'm saying? It's funny because I was thinking the other day when I was going to come in here, I was going to make a joke and say assalamu alaikum to everybody over here to just fire people up. But no,
listen,
it's alaikum salam, right? And don't get me wrong. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, Dave, as far as, and I don't want to kind of just focus because you said a lot there, right? I think it's important to befriend somebody and accept in a way and listen, and how you really get across to somebody is not so much by pushing, it's by listening, right? That's the real power there, is understanding, allowing people to be who they are. Then you can really, and I think that I think in every single situation that there's a learning lesson for everybody involved, even for somebody who might be strong in their beliefs of Christianity, they open up the door and start listening to somebody, from the Nation of Islam, they might learn a few things and whatnot. And I think that's where the diversity does come into play, and where we can accept people and understand. But I think there are just like in every single types of government structures, communism, capitalism, there's good and bad. Christianity, Islam, there's good and bad. And I think it's up to us as everyday humans, right, to take the bad, to take things like I've talked about it before. There are things in the Old Testament. I'm very happy that BJ is doing the show on a Saturday and not a Sunday, because if it was a Sunday, I'd have to stone him to death for doing the show on the Sabbath. Well, we can take that and understand that that's not what Christianity is all about. We could adjust it for modern day and accept it. But I do believe that if we were to reel back a lot of these problems that stem from empire, we would be more loving and accepting. If we were to stop bombing all these vessels, if we were to stop going into these countries and destabilizing their countries to extract their resources for the oligarchs, causing chaos, sending them here, there wouldn't be so much, forced migration. I mean, that's the problem with the whole situation, is people aren't coming here because they just want to come here. They're forced to come here. They have no choice. And it's by our empires doing so. If we were to have a standard of living the way we had it 50, 60 years ago, where the guy who sweeps the factory can buy a house, that would fix so many problems. We would be able to have a household with the family members at home, and they can teach their values upon their children. So what I'm saying is that if we were to fix these problems with empire and really push back against it, and I'd like to see that being done now. Right now, what I see with a lot of the Trump people, it's kind of they're dealing with this drug themselves called copium. With Barack Obama, BJ, we had hopium, right? He was giving us hope, and we were on the hopium, and we thought this guy was. Then we realized, oh my God, this guy is. I shouldn't say that. Oh my gosh, This guy is the same old, same old. He's being told to do what to do from Wall Street, from the military-industrial complex. He spoke a good game, but his actions are the same. Now we see this with Donald Trump, and we see these people out there with the copium trying to cope with what's going on and not realizing that they've been had. But that's where the problems lie. Everything evil stems from empire. Every single problem we're talking about on this show, whether it be issues within the LGBT community, issues with religion, issues with our schools, they all stem from the same place, a small group of people wanting to control the masses. That's what we have to focus on.
I'm in total agreement with that. I mean, 100%. And to make my point, and this is what our program is about. Okay, all these, I'm going to let Jeff get in here shortly. All these issues that we've been talking about, we have to think, okay, right, wrong, or indifferent. How do we possibly fight this? How do we do that? Empires. I mean, how can you control that? Look at all the money that's out there.
Yeah.
All the everything else that's going on. And what we need to do, and I'm pretty sure you're going to agree with this, is bring this down to the local level and start neighborhood to neighborhood, then city, or community, then city. And that's going to take you as an individual recognizing that you need to do that. I had a discussion with a neighbor the other day, a Christian neighbor, and I said, we need to get a Bible. I'm talking about all the houses around us. And I said, we need to do something about our neighbors, and let's get together, the Christians in the community. Let's talk about this. Let's do a Bible study, if you will, but see what it is that we can do to help open the door for some of our neighbors, and then move that outside of that.
Can I just say something before Jeff jumps in too as well? I agree with you, really, BJ. I just want to point this out. The first thing we need to do, and this is something we've said in our personal conversations, is acknowledge the problem for what it is. Too many people get pulled into this red versus blue, Bloods versus Crip, football mentality, the right versus the left. No, acknowledge what the problem is. First off, it's a group of people, and they got captured both parties, right, that control our government. They acknowledge that that's the problem. And the second part is, when you think global, you act local. People should be more concerned about who their sheriff is rather than who's sitting in the White House. I'm done.
Amen. No, great point. I promised 90 minutes on today's program. It looks like I'm a lie, because I think this is going to go beyond 90 minutes, and I'm okay with that. You're listening to lastcallradio.live, where you can see the difference. We're having a great discussion from all ends about what I would consider the greatest nation that has ever existed on the planet Earth, and how it seems to be crumbling, and there seems to be a lot of cracks in it, and it looks pretty bad right now, and looks like we're going to have a civil war. And I don't know whether that's going to happen or not, but I can tell you from my standpoint, I'm going to do everything I can to stop that from happening. At least I'm going to try. Like those in my Christian brotherhood that think that the second coming is it's around the corner, and I'm sure they thought the same thing when Nazi Germany was doing what they were doing. I'm not saying they're wrong, I'm not saying they're right, but here's where I'm going to be. If when the second coming happens, I'm going to be out in the field working. Come get me. That's for those that are sitting at the bus stop looking at their watch and tapping their foot.
Before JC goes, I'd just like to say something. I believe Christianity in its purest form is the most diverse, exclusive club you can be a member of. In other words, anybody can come through the door. It's just that you got to open the right door to come in. And it includes everybody once you're in. Maybe that's hard to grasp, but that's the way I look at it.
Okay.
Black, red, yellow, black, white, whatever, upside down. We're all troubled people. We all carry wrong ideas and right ideas. And once we come I'm going to say it. Once we come to the Lord and we accept the redemption that he offers to be reconciled to the King of Kings, live with him in eternal life. And that's the key. All of these other problems, no matter how big, how small, empires to fishing boats, all those problems are meaningless when you're facing eternity. And you need to, you just need to recognize that.
I get it. Quick break, and then we'll bring Jeff on. JC.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
Norm, you're awful quiet today. Oh, he wants in. I'm going to bring Jeff in first. Go ahead. JC.
Craig, I want to tell you something. I appreciate you. I really do. I like
You're
talking
supposed to.
Yeah, that's what we do as Christians. You know what I mean? There's some things you believe I don't believe. That's fine. And there's some things I agree with you on. We're not to be police in the world. We're not to, and governments are corrupt. I've ran for office twice, county commissioner and school board. And when I would register into these debates, I'd always go in. They would, well, what are you, a Republican or Democrat? I said, no, I'm a Christian American. I ain't taking an R or D. And they'd get so mad. And I spoke to them about the church coming out in our community, that we've had 40 years of 2 programs, Just Say No and the DARE program. You people have spent millions of dollars on these programs, and the drug problem has gotten worse. Our kids are being destroyed. So a couple quick examples, and I've learned a lot from David Arthur. David is what? David, I think, come into our life about 11 years ago, 10 years ago. I don't know. It's been a little while. But when I first met him, I met him in another state. I think it was Wisconsin. And here he was, ex-transgender, ex-homosexual. And he was telling the stories, and everybody was just blown away. And there was actually 5 pastors that day that I knew personally. And I listened, I discerned. And the thing of it is, I didn't wear that gray hat. You're talking earlier about gray, being gray. Well, from the beginning of time, it was either a black hat or a white hat. You knew who the good guys were and who the bad guys were. But everybody today, now hear me out, don't shake your head. Everybody today wants to wear that gray hat. Oh, I just ain't going to say nothing. Zip my lip here. I ain't going to say nothing. But as I met David, I'll tell this quick little story. I come home from that trip that weekend. I come home. My wife wasn't with me. I come home and I said, honey, I met a guy this weekend. He was coming to Ohio. He needs a place to stay. His name's David Arthur. I started telling her about him. She got mad. Oh, I mean, irate. She was so stinking mad. You're not bringing a transgender homosexual into this neighborhood. We got all Democrats on this street. They already don't like me. It's just the way the neighborhood is. They don't like me because of different Christian things we've done in our community. So I let it cool off for about 2 or 3 days. She finally said, okay. So David, come live with us. Now, I brought this guy into my house. Open arms, just me and my wife, Christian, saying, you know what? Let's give him a shot. Let's see what he's all about. He ended up hanging out and talking and cooking with my wife, and she loved him. He said, David told her, he said, you're just like my mom, just like my mama. Because we're older than David. But they hit it off, and now she still loves him to death. It's like today. I dropped him a thing. He's struggling a little bit with income and finances right now. He's taking care of his mama, just like you are doing. His mom is in terrible shape. He can't get the income he had out there with his flea markets and his peddling his products that he sells. And so me and my wife, I said, hey, honey, how about we just send our tithing check to David this month instead of the church? Church has got enough money. They got plenty. So she said, all right, let's do that. Let's do it for the next 2, 3, 4 months and get him through the winter and help him and his mom out. But David taught me along the way, because before I met David, I was typical. I'd grab that Bible. I got one laying here close. So I would have grabbed it. And it'd just Bible thump them, tell them they're going to hell. Just nuts. You know what I mean? Completely just judge them right off the bat. And say, listen, if you don't become a Christian, you're going to hell. You're going to burn. Blah, blah, blah. But over the years of listening to David and learning from him, listening, like he said, you got to listen to people. At my car lot, I have brought in several homosexuals, men and women, sit them down at the picnic table, feed them, talk to them, in the middle of the day at my car business, selling cars, and I got homosexuals sitting there. Now, some of the people around would look at me like, that's stupid. Why do you got that gay guy in here? And different times, they would sit and cry, and I would listen and talk with them. And I didn't thump them with the Bible, but I just shared my thoughts and feelings. And most of the times with these people, I'd say, give me your hand. Let me have prayer with you. And boy, they'd put their hand out, grab hold of mine, and I'd have prayer with them at my desk. And they would thank me. I got another, I shut down my car lot a couple months ago. Got a guy out the road, has a little car lot. What I do, I took him the last 4 or 5 of my cars and said, here, buddy, can you sit these on your lot and sell them? I'll just sign the titles over to you. When you sell them, cut me in on some money. You know what he is? He's a Muslim. Ahmad and I now are talking. And we've talked a little bit about Islam. We've talked about Christ. He gives me his thing. Oh, Jesus was a prophet. Blah, 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 blah. But we're not enemies. But I'm not wearing the gray hat either. He knows what color my hat is. I'm not going to put the gray hat on and sidestep it and, and talk about him behind his back. But him and I are friends right now.
Listening to him is wearing the gray hat. You accepting his views for that's the gray hat.
No,
that's what I'm talking about.
No, he knows where I come from, and I know where he comes from.
But the listening and accepting each other for who you are is what I'm talking about.
But I'm not going to wear gray. I don't want to be in the middle. I just want to befriend him, like David says. You know what I mean? So that's some of the things we're doing. We're not hateful people. But I just want to say I appreciate you coming on this show. I look forward to it. I hope Craig's on here again this weekend. You know what I mean? This has been good.
Yes.
And I've even mentioned it to get you on Coach Dave's show sometime. Come on in on Coach Dave Dobmar's show, Pass the Salt, and share some of your thoughts. You'll find out people will like you. So that's it, brother.
We got somebody with a red hat that wants to make a comment.
Uh-oh.
Well, first, BJ, I think we need to do a 3-hour show today, not 90 minutes.
Yeah, that's what it's turning into.
Right. Yeah, I want to pick up on something that I'm hearing here. I taught as a counselor for years. The most important thing in the whole wide world, and nothing else really matters, is relationships.
Yeah.
And that's what David is doing. I'm not one of these like JC that goes out yelling, repent, but we build those relationships. We don't judge them. They watch us. I promise you, they're watching you. And when we live with peace in our heart and again, handling situations properly. And again, I'm going to promise something else. They're watching and they will have trouble. And who do they want to come to? They want to come to David. And that's what I call a teachable moment. Until you get a teachable moment, you're not going to make any headway. And something else. Now, we've talked about a lot of subjects today, and we need to talk about these things. But on the other side, they can be a big distraction. We get, as Mr. Anderson was saying, what's this hand while something else is going on? Again, we need to talk about these things, but we need to be building relationships. And if my neighborhood, if my church is going to change, it's going to start with me. Okay, I don't need to be pointing the finger at everybody else. I need to focus on me. And when I develop the personal relationship with my Creator that I need, then I'm going to have the discernment that I need to be able to judge these other things that's going on. So again, while we talk about these things, we need to focus on ourselves, our personal relationship, and that's where change is going to happen. But so that's all.
Well, Craig,
you know what?
Go ahead.
David. I'm taking a wild guess here, what you guys were, I guess, talking about gray hats. But it's not a new term, right? So I'm pretty much know what you guys are talking about with the gray hat. And we don't have to wear any hat at all. So whether you're wearing the black hat or the white hat, you take the hat off and you just establish a relationship, an intimate one. See, everybody thinks that intimate and intimacy is sex, and it's not. Two completely different things. But I mean, I know we go to the mall, right? What do we see? Intimate apparel. And so people look at me crazy when I say my intimate apparel is Jesus the Christ, because that's who I put on. That's what I put on whenever I'm establishing relationships. But we are where we're at because the church has failed. That's why we are where we're at. So we don't have to put on a gray hat to sit down with somebody. And I actually, if you sit down with somebody that knows that you are firm in your beliefs, they're not going to tell you their beliefs. They're not going to push their beliefs. They're not going to try to convert you or anything like that. They're just going to be able to focus on the relationship and getting to know you and you getting to know them. That's what's so important. And so many people, even the ones that identify as homosexuals right now, when they have an issue, and this is what Norm was saying, they call me. When they have an issue, can you please pray for me? I had a guy call me, this was a couple months ago, before my mom, before her falls, but he says, I'm sitting in the parking lot of the Treasure Chest. That's an adult bookstore with video booths where people go in to engage in sexual activity. Men, mostly 99.9% of them are men. He said, I'm sitting in the parking lot. I really want to go in. Can you come and get me? It's an hour and a half away, but I went and got him. I told him, meet me at the Dunkin' Donuts. And he did. And that's the whole point. The whole point of just being in their life is that they will eventually get to discover that they don't have to engage in certain things alone, and they always have somebody that'll be there for them. I mean, and that's really what it's about, is just letting them know that, hey, I'm here. If you need me, I'm here. And isn't that what you do with your own family members or friends that you grew up with, that you consider your friends? Just because they think like you and believe what you believe. I mean, how many of us have family members that don't think like us and don't believe what we believe? All of us. But does that mean that we cut them off, or we don't talk to them, or we don't want to be around them? I mean, it's just, we have to treat everybody the same, because the blood in your veins makes you relatives. The blood of the Christ makes you family. And if you don't want other people to come into the fold, then don't establish relationships with them, because that should be your only goal. Sorry.
That's what we're doing with Craig.
The theme song that I'm thinking that goes with this conversation, I don't know if you remember Saturday Night Live, and I think it was Steve Martin did the song Walk Like an Egyptian. And I'm thinking, walk like a Christian, and that's what attracts the people. That's a compliment, and I'm very happy to get the compliment from Craig when he said that he likes us because we act like Christians.
Yeah.
No, there's a big difference between this group and the people in the White House and people in Congress who pretend to be Christians making those decisions. And on the very first show I was doing with you guys too, as well, when I talk about acknowledging the problems, was the whole Nigerian Christian situation, right? Here we go again. We got the White House. We got all the cats over there, the people in the Department of War telling these lies about Nigeria because they know they can get the majority of people in the United States emotionally involved. They tell them that Christians are being persecuted, whatnot. We got to go over there. We got to get involved. I know what's going on for Nigeria for quite some time because, once again, I'm involved. It's the foreign policy aspect. I understand that the USAID was a PR firm for regime change. I saw that a lot of people on the anti-woke side kind of fell victim to what they thought USAID was doing as far as like, you know, spending money on transgender education in Zimbabwe, or, you know, gay studies in Bangladesh and all that stuff. But really what USAID has done is a way to funnel money so the CIA could push regime change for the oligarchs in these other countries. Now, since China has cut us off, but now they're back on the table from the rare earth minerals, because China's the only nation out right now as far as, you know, extracting rare earth minerals from the ground without destroying the inhabitants around it. The United States doesn't know how to do it. The West doesn't know how to do that. We go in to get rare earth minerals. We destroy the land around it. We destroy the ecosystem around it. It's terrible, right? They recently cut us off and said, we're no longer going to export rare earth minerals to you. We need those rare earth minerals as far as now. I want to say we, the ruling class, right? Because everything, our phones, our computers, they need cobalt, they need nickel, they need lithium. They need this stuff to push forth their agenda and to advance their AI for negative reasons in the future. So with China saying that, all of a sudden you can see the West freaking out, and they're looking for places to go in to extract them and steal these rare earth minerals. Nigeria was on the table. You know, actually, I believe more Muslims were killed than Christians in Nigeria. It was just the percentage-wise was a high Muslim percentage area as opposed to Christians. Nigeria split down the middle, 50% Christian, 50% Muslim. But it's what we talked about again. BJ, we got to acknowledge what's going on, the game being played. This isn't about Christianity. This is about a radical group, Boko Haram, doing what they're paid to do, funded by the CIA and through our tax dollars that are pushed, making believe that it's going for humanitarian reasons, you know, to feed hungry people around the world, when it's being used to create a problem so the United States can come in there and give you the solution. Hey, we got to fix this problem. Christians are being persecuted. We got to drop bombs. We got to invade. We got to take Nigeria over to stop the killing of Christians. It's really not about that. It's about, once again, the same thing in Venezuela. Venezuela's got the largest oil reserves in the world. Nigeria is one of the most oil-rich African countries, has a lot of rare earth minerals. We want them. We need them. Let's lie to the people and do what we normally do. Empire is the root of all evil.
There you go again. Hey, quick break, and we'll get back with the conversation and end it, at least for the day.
Last call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
We didn't get to a lot of headlines. I got 4 or 5 pages of headlines, and we didn't get to hardly any of them. By the way, I understand that the Minnesota Vikings had to change their name. They're now called the Somali Pirates. Craig, what I love about our conversation with you, what I love about our conversation with you is that you say some things that I might or we might be hesitant to say. We can always say, "Well, Craig said that. We didn't say that."
How many times? Can I ask you a question real quick? Here's the thing. All right, so you want to talk about Somalia? You want to talk about Minnesota? Okay, their issues, whatever. How many times since Donald Trump has been president have we bombed Somalia? 102. 102 times of your tax-paying dollars we've used to bomb this country, Somalia. So I don't want to hear about your opinions or thoughts, Mr. President, on Somalia. What you said was disgusting, and you are part of the problem. Why are you bombing Somalia on a regular basis, killing women and children? Stop it. We don't want to hear it.
You know, I'm so glad that I am not a Republican and I'm not a Democrat. I am. I'm so glad that I'm just a Christian guy who, you know, who's just trying to get through. Because it took me a long time to recognize and realize that the conservative movement is not a Christian movement. While many Christians are conservative because the values and the morality thing, but not all conservatives are Christians. And I think that is, even if they claim to be, I mean, there's a whole lot of people claiming to be. Me personally, I don't believe that you can be in politics and truly represent Jesus the Christ. I just don't think that it's done. Not outside of a local level. Not, I mean, I'm not talking about school boards and little town halls, and I'm talking about state, federal. I just don't believe it. But we can't tear down any empires until we are furthering the kingdom. Because anyone who's not trying to further the kingdom but trying to tear down empires, they're doing so because they have an agenda. And everybody has an agenda. I think when I came into the show, I heard Craig talking about the bombing, the boats. And I have to say that is one of the, I won't even watch them. That is one of the most disturbing things I have seen, was just seeing somebody just bomb a boat and just murder people, because it's murder. That is one of the most disturbing things. And then to hear them brag about it and talk about it and well, they're just drug smugglers. I mean, they say the same thing about pedophiles. They say, oh, well, they're just going to do it again. There's no helping those people, so let the bodies fall. Actually, that was a comment in another podcast that I was watching a couple of days ago, was one of the people watching said in the comment section, well, they're just going to do it again, so let the bodies fall. And that just pricks me right in my heart. Being a registered sex offender, being one who was sex trafficked and then became an agent for my handlers and recruited people, I can say that there absolutely is hope and redemption for anybody. Even those men bringing drugs into this country or drugs into another country or whatever they're doing, there's hope for them too. And so we say, okay, there's a good comment right there. Drug cartels don't hesitate to kill innocent people. Well, pedophiles don't hesitate to basically kill the spirit, soul, mind, body, and spirit of children. But it doesn't mean that they are beyond hope. It doesn't mean what's the difference in a liar, a cheater, a murderer, or a drug pusher, or a pedophile? Through God's lens, there is none.
Good point. Good point.
No difference. And it hurts my heart when I see or hear that it's okay to murder men on a boat for bringing drugs into the country because, oh, my son might take those drugs. Well, your son should be held responsible for his actions too, because if he doesn't get it from those men, he's going to get it from somewhere. So we just have to really take a step back. If we don't start seeing things through the lens of the God that we serve, then we'll never see things the way that we're supposed to see them. We will never be pleasing and acceptable unto the Lord if we're not trying desperately to see through his lens. And I'm sorry, but nobody deserves death for committing a sin. And that's what crime is. If they're committing anything, they don't deserve death. That's why Jesus the Christ came. That's why he came.
There's laws that, police enforcement, and BJ, cut me off anytime if I go over too as well. I think Norma hit something. We got to do a 3-hour show today. There are laws for shooting somebody who's coming to you with their hands up, right? Don't shoot. You can't shoot that person, right? That killing of those 2 people who were surviving, just holding onto the boat on top, was double deserving. And, when you say, hey, oh, these people won't hesitate to kill so-and-so. Listen, what I thought makes America great again was the return to due process. That's something that we are supposed to have that makes us stand out from every other society on the planet. Here in the United States, we don't have authoritarian dictators. You have the right to a trial. You have a right to defend yourself. You have a right to tell your story in a public hearing, right? That's what's supposed to make America great again. And that has gone out the window with this president. And it says clearly in the Constitution, for all people, not just American citizens, for all people. And where we go, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights goes with us, you know? And like I said before, this is a bunch of nonsense. Mr. Anderson played the video. Donald Trump just pardoned the guy who brought in 400 tons of cocaine to the United States. This ain't about drug trafficking. I think that Dave made a great point that everybody's responsible for their own issue. I said we need to discuss the national discussion that's being missed is why are there so many addicts to begin with in the first place? Because of our big pharma situation where these doctors are just handing out Adderall, opioids like it's candy because they're working for the drug companies, the real drug dealers out there. So, I mean, there's been so many amazing points and interesting points hit here. I am so blessed to be part of this show today. I'm going to shut up because I've been speaking most of the time. I thought, Dave, you brought some amazing stuff to the table. But what we're seeing with this killing out there, you know, and when you talk about, oh, you got to kill them because there's no hope saving them, that's the same mentality that's being used in Gaza today. That young kid who's an innocent kid who hasn't even learned anything is getting bombed and killed because they're saying he's going to grow up to be a terrorist. We might as well kill him now anyways. We know that's wrong. We know that's awful. And all these killings that we're seeing, guess what? The last point, the little nugget I'll leave you with, it's all being done on our dime, our tax dollars that could be spent at home, making that natural family you talk about, B.J. Edwards, stronger than ever.
And on our watch. By the way, you're on a program with doers, folks. Every individual in this program is a doer. They're not just sitting back and praying. They're in the game. They're engaged. I ran across Craig because of my doing. It was on a totally, I mean, nothing related to what we were doing. It was a Zoom call, and I was on it for a couple, 3 weeks, and Craig ignited something in me. And it's like, wow, this fellow wants to talk, and he's open to having a discussion. I'm not used to that from the other side. So let's just take him aside, have that conversation, and see what happens. We're not going to continue this for another hour or two, although we could. However, we have a program next week, and maybe we'll continue the same discussion.
Good grief, how fast time goes. Wow. This is good stuff.
Please tell your friends about this program, your relatives. This is important. We're having discussions here. We're making recommendations here, local level, how to do it. Building relationships. Absolutely. You can't walk up to somebody and say, hey, you know what? Your baby's ugly, and expect to have a conversation. Okay, that ain't going to happen. You gotta open it up and say, let's talk. I can remember I did a lot of walking earlier. Well, a couple 3 years ago, I kind of stopped at a mall, and I had a shirt on that says something about Jesus loves or something like that. And a guy walked up to me and says, I don't like your shirt. And you know what I said to him? Let's talk. And we walked around for over an hour. And he did not want to end that conversation. He was curious about what I had to talk about, and I was talking about what was on my shirt. Hey, we're going to get out of here. I want to thank Craig and everybody else. JC, sorry, buddy, we're going to have to cut this off. I love you all. I appreciate what you're doing. Keep up the good work, and tell your friends about this program. Please, please, please. B.J. Edwards, along with Mr. Anderson. Go ahead, sir.
Everybody smile. We'll see you next week. God bless everyone. Oh, boy.
Join us next week for Last Call with B.J. Edwards.